Welcome to Cover 3 Press Podcast. I'm Mason Riggs, and with me as always is Justin Samra and Jake Ramsey. Today we'll be previewing the upcoming NBA season. Before we dive into it, guys, how about this dispute between Morey, the Houston Rockets GM, and China, and having all these games overseas still being played? What's your guys' thoughts on the situation?
It's kind of a shaky situation. As you saw, Morey tweeted. I think it said "Power to the people," or I stand by Hong Kong. I think it said. As people know, there's a dispute between Hong Kong and China that's been going on for a while. But as Morey tweeted that, it greatly offended China and stuff like that. And David Stern, not David Stern. I'm sorry, Adam Silver had Daryl Morey's back. Said that he's for free speech and all, as other than American law, of course, that stands for that. But it's kind of an interesting situation, as it's kind of hard to understand. And it was posted on Twitter, and residents in China, Chinese people in China don't have access to Twitter, so I don't even know how they really would have seen it. So it's kind of an interesting situation. It's kind of, and at the Lakers Nets game that both teams are in China right now, game, all the media opportunities were blacked out during the game, as I saw. So it's kind of an interesting situation. We'll kind of see how this goes on in the future for the NBA with China. As we all know, China's a huge partner of the NBA, and they're huge fans of the NBA.
Yeah, this is something that I feel pretty strongly about, honestly. I think one thing that the NBA has kind of done over the last few years is they've kind of been on their high horse about social issues and speaking out, and I'm completely for that. Like, when you have a platform as good as or as big as the NBA, you kind of have to use that, but at the same time, you can't be on your moral high horse that you're better than everyone and you're so for the progressive, movement in America, but at the same time, you're bowing down and kind of like, bowing down to China, which, let's face it, they're, pretty much a dictatorship over there. So, it's a pretty sticky situation. You have Steve Kerr and Greg Popovich. They're giving no comment on this, but they'll comment on pretty much anything else. So, but I understand it. Adam Silver told them, stop speaking on this, because 10 to 15% of the NBA's revenue comes from China, and the NBA has worked so hard to build this, relationship overseas. Because let's face it, in America, the ratings are going down. Everyone's talking about how the NBA, cord cutters and all this is going. Well, the NFL ratings are going up. Other leagues' percentages are going up in terms of ratings. So I just hear a lot of excuses for the NBA, and this is just a classic case where it's tough to be on your high horse and then kind of get brought back to reality when the bottom line is clearly the most important thing. Don't get that twisted at all.
Yeah, you're gonna see them flip a little bit, I think, eventually. As you mentioned, as the bottom line comes down to is this is a business, and the NBA is gonna be losing business potentially by having this dispute.
Honestly.
Yes, they have, and that's why I kind of think Silver's now, after Popovich and Kerr kind of spoke out, kind of wants them to mum's the word a little bit, trying to get it to die down, because obviously Adam Silver can't publicly say he's not for free speech or stuff like that. He has to stay where he's at, but at the same time he has to be kind of neutral and just kind of play on that fence. So he's kind of waiting for it to blow over right now. And it's crazy out there, guys. People in China, they're scared to go to the games. They're scared to go see the players walking through the streets, because they don't want to seen as supporters of it right now. Negative consequences could happen over there. So it's just really wild. I know Stephen Curry recently mentioned that he might not be going on his tour next year to China. He's really got it in the balance, and players are going to have to decide. Do they want to go visit and potentially, kind of cast a black market. This kind of keeps on going on. It's just kind of a real sticky situation, as you guys mentioned. And it'll be interesting to see, if it ever blows over or not. I'm pretty sure China did announce that they are not broadcasting Houston Rocket games for this upcoming year. So that's pretty crazy. And I know Houston and the Golden State Warriors are the two biggest teams up there, probably with the Lakers in China. So that's a big hit. And it'll be interesting to see if the NBA can kind of lay in the weeds here a little bit and see if this blows over. But they got a revolution going on out there. They're rioting. It's been going on for a while, and the people are trying to stand up for what they believe in, and it's just crazy times over there right now.
Yeah, honestly, if they do keep this up, I mean, it's a disaster for the NBA. Like I mentioned earlier, 10 to 15% of what already is a declining amount of viewership. And I mean, let's face it, the NBA generates revenue by people watching the games. I mean, if no one's watching the games, they're not going to be able to sell ads on those games. And the salary cap, I mean, there's implications for this. I mean, the reason that it's so important is the NBA salary cap does not rise like the NFL's does. The NFL's salary cap rises because more people watch those games. Therefore, they generate more revenue, and there's more revenue to be split amongst the owners and the players. And, imagine the salary cap goes down. I mean, the implications that would not only have for the league, but for the teams. I mean, they're not going to be able to have all of these players. These players are not going to be able to get paid so much money. I mean, it's a disaster. I mean, 10 to 15% of the revenue, that's going to be like 5% or so. I don't know the exact numbers. But if the salary cap goes down, I mean, that's just a disaster all the way around. So, hopefully the NBA can figure this out. And, I mean, Daryl Morey, man, I mean, for someone, I mean, I know he's so well respected, and I respect him as a GM and what he's attempted to build over there, and I really respect his whole, the Warriors are on top. We're gonna go out and we're gonna do everything we can to beat the Warriors. I think that's so smart. But I mean, last year leaking all that stuff about the foul calls, and then going on and saying James Harden is the best scorer ever, and then now this. I mean, he is, for someone who hasn't won a championship, he's kind of been all over the place lately.
Yeah, kind of the only thing that's coming out. It's it's an unfortunate and kind of sticky situation. It's kind of the only way you can really put it. Like Mason kind of referred to, people are kind of afraid to show themselves because they're afraid of what the government might do, which is it's kind of a scary situation in that case. I mean, LeBron James and Anthony Davis and the rest of the Lakers were getting off the bus, and there was like 30 people out there. There would normally be thousands of people lined up to get a glimpse of LeBron and AD, So it's kind of a definite weird situation, and the NBA is for sure going to lose money off of it, and we're going to have to see how it goes down the line, because as you know, a lot of players have ties to Chinese companies, basketball companies like Liaoning and stuff like that. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how it goes. And my question is, the Lakers and the Nets, they played this morning and they played 2 days ago, and they're scheduled to play again Saturday, against the Nets. Like, I don't know why they're still there, to be honest. You know what I mean? I think they should just probably pack it up and head home. But
they're kind of the enemy. In a way of the government, it seems. The government's angry at the NBA. Kind of angry. I could see them at the players in a sense, and it just, not saying anything would happen to them or anything like that, but it just doesn't seem up to standards to to what should be going on. I agree with you. They should be sent home and play these games at home right now. It just, there's no one even showing up to the games. What's up with that? Kind of just in that alone, you just get out of there. In my opinion, they should just head back.
It's weird, and NBA is like, that's one of the biggest things entertainment wise in China. They love the NBA. Those people would kill for a chance to get in the same building as LeBron and Kyrie and all that. And it's just weird that they have to act like they're not there. You know what I mean? So it's definitely a weird situation. So we'll see how forecast in the future. Hopefully it a positive manner for the NBA.
I'm not taking a stance on this. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm well educated on what's going on over there. But from the perspective of Chinese people, I saw, I don't know where I saw it, but I saw it on Twitter that, they're comparing the Hong Kong riots to terrorist attacks. Like, they feel really strongly about what's going on there. And like I said, I'm not taking a stance either way, but I mean, the Chinese people are at odds big time with Hong Kong, and basically, I mean, they just felt that Morey was, de facto supporting, acts of terror against them. So I think that's kind of where they're coming from in that perspective. So like I said, I'm not standing on either side of this issue. I'm just saying I think that's kind of why it's gotten so overblown so far. So, I mean, it's crazy that one tweet could cause all this, and the NBA would lose billions off a tweet. That's pretty crazy.
The tweet was correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the tweet was only public for 4 minutes too.
Oh yeah, if it's on the Twitter and the internet for a second, it's there for life.
There
forever.
100%. I'm just saying, like,
yeah, no, it's quick.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is very crazy. And honestly, as Josh put it, it's pretty much like that. I mean, let's be real. The people are trying to overthrow the government right now to a degree. I've seen some horrific videos of encounters between police and civilians and stuff like that, and military and civilians. And, the government, from their perspective, as Josh said, the government's being attacked right now. And Daryl Morey basically just threw his support behind the people that are trying to overthrow the government. So I think, Josh, you put it down, you said it rightly. That's, kind of how the Chinese perspective is right now, the government. And let's just hope, that the situation gets better for everything and, people are safe over there and all that. But moving on, let's get into this, guys. NBA season's right around the corner. I say, we start breaking down some of that Pacific Division since, our respected love for our teams are there, the Warriors and the Lakers. So let's get into it. You guys ready?
Hell yeah,
yes,
man.
Sir.
All right. I guess we'll start off with the Warriors, since they won the division last year. A lot has changed, as, everyone knows, unless you're living underneath the rock. Kevin Durant is he left to Brooklyn. The Warriors also lost Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston, key pieces to their championship runs. Really the foundation of their bench. They're leaders of their team. And then, another person that helped them out, from time to time was Quinn Cook. He's also out of there. But from a big splash, they were able to land D'Angelo Russell, touted point guard that was formerly of the Lakers. High draft pick. So give me some thoughts, guys. What do you guys see and expect from this Warriors team coming up?
It's going to be an interesting year for the Warriors. Unlike anything we've seen in the last, 5 years, obviously. They don't have the exact star power they're used to having. Obviously, All-Star, one of the best defenders in the league, Klay Thompson, is going to be out till at least the All-Star break. So that they're hurting there. But, I really, it was a great thing for them when KD left because, obviously people had a feeling KD were going to leave, but no one really knew for sure. But the fact that they were able to get D'Angelo Russell, an all-star caliber player, in return for him is huge for the Warriors, that KD didn't just walk out the door and left with nothing, So that's big for them. It's going to be an interesting dynamic to see D'Lo play with Curry. It's a different player than they're both used to playing with, so it's definitely going to be an adjustment period. But, I'm excited this year to see what Curry can do, guys, because, past years, he can put up all these crazy stats, MVP numbers. We're used to that. But he'd only play, 32 minutes to 36 minutes a game. He's going to probably be called upon to play 40-plus minutes in multiple games this year. So he's going to be putting up numbers, I think. And, another question with him is, can he stay healthy? If he can stay healthy this year and play to the level that we all know that he's capable of playing, he's going to be right there for MVP at the end of the year. And, if Curry, at the same time for this Warrior team, if Curry gets hurt, that's going to be bad for them, I believe. Like, Curry's kind of holding all the cards for them, as he should. He's their best player, especially until Thompson gets back. But he's going to be holding all the cards for them, so it's going to be kind of riding on him as they've lost a lot of the supporting cast and as they've lost the star power. But, a lot at the same time, it's not like they're going to be a terrible team. They got Draymond Green. They got a bunch of guys like Willie Cauley-Stein is going to be a great contributor. Jordan Poole's been looking good in the preseason too, guys. And it's going to be interesting to see what they can do. They're it's almost weird to talk about, because like you're kind of like a dark horse, but at the same time, if they're dominant, it's not going to be surprising, So it's like it's going to be a very interesting year, and this is going to be this is going to be where Steve Kerr can I think he can put out if he puts out a masterful coaching performance this year and gets this team to the Western Conference Finals or even the finals or something like that, he's going to go up. He's going to go, as he probably already is, but that's just going to rank him even higher in the long list of all-time great coaches.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking at the team, I think Ramsey put it pretty well there earlier that this is just a complete turnover of the roster. I mean, you really have a couple key pieces coming back. You lose that veteran leadership, but I think now Steph, Clay, and Draymond are kind of moving into that Iggy and Livingston role of kind of leading from the bench. And we saw a little bit of decline from Iggy had his moments in the postseason, but definitely Livingston, they kind of declined. But I think one thing that people kind of got to get ready for is it's not going to be smooth sailing. I mean, even if Steph puts up MVP numbers, I mean, just the fits schematically and the fits of the younger players and the free agent acquisitions. I mean, I know right now a bunch of people are playing well in the preseason, but it's gonna be rocky for everyone to find their place. But honestly, I mean, specifically coming off the bench, it's gonna be very interesting to see who comes off, and because I think there's some talent, but they just got to find the right pieces, got to get that lineup, because there's so much consistency. You look at from 2015 till up until last year. I mean, obviously you added KD, but one of the main things about the whole KD thing was that the transition was so seamless. I mean, it felt like he just fit in there pretty easily. I mean, they went 16-1 in that postseason with him there. So hopefully they can kind of hold the ship until Klay Thompson gets back. But I think right now just fitting everyone in schematically and then fitting everyone in the lineups throughout the game is going to be the two biggest things. And you're completely right, Ramsey. I mean, Steve Kerr is going to kind of have to figure this thing out on the fly.
Yeah, honestly, you guys well points. It's a transition year, to put it best. They're one injury away from being crippled, especially early on in the year, as Ramsey touched on. But they do got a lot of talent, a lot of young talent, especially. They got to learn, they got to grow. But they brought in some young rookies that showed promise and showed them the ability to play a little basketball, whether it was overseas in the G League or in college competing in the NCAA tournament. But one player that I really have high hopes for is Willie Cauley-Stein. He's someone that, being around really talented players, proven professionals, might bring the best out of him. He averaged 12 points, 8 rebounds, 2.4 assists per games. Physical specimen out there, can run the floor, can switch out on multiple defenders. So I think he's going to be a big piece. But, from an offensive standpoint, they are going to struggle a little bit, maybe struggle to find that true third scorer till Klay is back. But mostly, they're going to struggle defensively, I feel. Teams are going to go out that backcourt of Steph Curry and Russell right now. They're going to abuse them in the pick and roll and try to get them on an island and get them to switch. So early on, they're going to have to outscore people early. But, I think it's just fair to say it's a transition year, and they'll just be happy, as long as they're highly competitive and, sneaking into the playoffs, in one of those middle to late seeds. But they're a team that, has championship DNA still, so I wouldn't put anything past them.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a bit of a reach to say that they could get there right now. You'd have to see huge rookie seasons from Jordan Poole and Alan Smileyjack. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Smileyjack and D'Lo would have to kind of just fit in perfectly. So they do have that championship DNA, and I mean.
Oh, I didn't say they're going to the championship. I just said they'd be happy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of this is going to be a huge year for Steph. Honestly, this is gonna prove really where he is. I know there's been a lot of questions about, how much can he really do on his own, quote unquote, even though I think that some of that talk is pretty ridiculous.
He's a 2-time MVP.
Yeah,
unanimous. That's crazy talk. He's done it without Kevin Durant, so
exactly.
I mean, bother.
Yeah, I know. But this year is going to show kind of what he can do with. I mean, you're not going to have Klay. Draymond, we'll see what he looks like, but there's really no excuses for anyone else if Steph comes out just guns blazing and kind of puts up these ridiculous numbers. I mean, in the preseason right now, I think he's shooting 24 times a game. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say if he shoots 24 times a game in the regular season, I mean, we could see him averaging 37 a game or something crazy. I mean, he's just so efficient, and I mean, I wanted to pick him for the MVP, but like Ramsey said earlier, I mean, his injury concerns would concern me. But I mean, we'll see what he can do with the rest of this roster.
That's the thing that's going to concern me, and I hope he's able to play the whole year healthy because he's going to be able to do some things that he hasn't necessarily been able to do in past years, statistically wise. But like the thing that's going to be tough for him, because D'Angelo Russell's not necessarily known for his defense. He's an average defender. He's a good defender, but he's not nothing that amounts to Clay or anything like that. So it's going to be tough for Steph, and Steph's kind of used to it. He's used to teams attacking him. If you watch the Rockets and the Warriors, every possession they're switching hard onto Curry. So it's like Steph's used to it, but it's going to be it's going to be tough for him every night, every single night that he's going to have to guard the top guard on the opponent's team. So he's going to be getting it's not like he's playing a normal 30 minutes, where he kind of coasts through the game as we've seen him do in past years. He's going to be really playing hard this year, I believe. And, I think he's kind of open to the challenge. I think he kind of accepts it, and I think he's kind of excited for it. So I'm very excited to see what the Warriors are going to do this year.
Yeah, but moving on to the next team probably in the standings according to last year is the Clippers. And just like I asked if anyone's living on the rock under a rock earlier, they had possibly, if not the craziest offseason, the second craziest offseason to the Lakers. LA is booming. Star power everywhere. They landed Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, two all NBA caliber players, MVP caliber players. And, they pushed that Warriors team last year in that first round, pretty tough. So it would not surprise me to see this Clipper team go far, if not, to the finals and win it all. They've got a deep team out there. Still got Patrick Beverly out there, the tenacious defender. And, another good young player that people might not really realize, Zubac out there from, once on the Lakers. He's
Still
a really,
that trade.
really, really good player out there. Just keep your eyes on him. They did give up some of their young talent to get Paul George, but they still have Montrezl Harrell, who's an animal off for rebounds and points, and another really good young player I'm high on is Landry Shamet, really second-year sharpshooter, make immediate impact. They might have, if him and Lou Williams come off the bench, they might have some of the best shooting in the NBA off the bench. So give me some thoughts, fellas, on this up-and-coming Clippers team.
As much as I hate them, I have to put all bias aside. They're going to be very good this year. They are going to be a championship contender for sure, as everyone probably knows by now. Patrick Beverly starting it off in that starting five is just kind of fits his team perfectly, with Kawhi and Paul George. They're going to be elite defensively. They're kind of built.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. They're kind of built exactly to stop teams like the Lakers and the Rockets and, whoever else, the Warriors, and who's going to be contending in the Western Conference. They're kind of built exactly to stop them. And if Kawhi can stay healthy the whole year, and we'll see how much they manage him through the year. They said that they're not going to, but, we all know that pro teams kind of lie about that all the time, as we see with Todd Gurley in the NFL. But, Paul George, coming off 2 shoulder surgeries in the offseason, I hope he can rebound, strong. And he had his career year last year. He was amazing last year, one of the best defenders, and was in that MVP race for a long time till the end of the season, really. And he's just a great player. And the fact that they have probably the 2 best wing defenders in the league, it's, going to cause headaches for LeBron and company. So it's going to be tough. Ivica Zubac, as a Laker fan, I'm still mad about that trade. I don't know what was in the Lakers' head when that happened. But, Clippers got to steal with that one. He's a good young center. I've been reading stuff where it's saying his ceiling is kind of like a Marc Gasol, probably a lower grade Marc Gasol, but, it's a very solid player. And, off their bench, they're probably the best bench in the NBA. Lou Will, probably the best 6-man of all time. If not right now, he will be by the end of his career. Montrezl Harrell, as our good friend James Harden says, is getting weird. He's starting to hit threes. So that just, that's going to make it even more scary. With that dude's an animal on the boards. And then, like Mason said, Landry Shamet's a very good young player. He's a very good defender, and he's a great sharpshooter off the bench. So it's going to be, the Clipper. And, of course, we haven't talked about Doc Rivers as their coach. They have a very good coach. So they have a full, this team's built to win a championship. It's just going to be whether the question they can get it done or not.
Yeah, my two biggest concerns with this team, obviously they have this elite star power. One is injuries, as you guys mentioned. Paul George and Kawhi kind of have an injury history, especially lately. I mean, Paul George had big time shoulder problems last year. It was tough to watch him in the postseason. And then Kawhi, he's kind of been load managed his way through the last 3 years. So we'll kind of see if he's back to full strength. I don't think that's as much of a concern until later in the year. Let's say one of them goes down, that's a problem. But talking specifically schematically, I mean, I just really don't know who's going to be kind of facilitating this offense. I mean, you got Paul George and Kawhi are great ISO players. They're guys that can move without the ball. They could do pretty much everything offensively except for kind of facilitate that offense. And that's one thing that they're going to miss with losing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, their point guard. I think they need to get someone in there that can kind of, I mean, honestly, like an ideal person for that would be like an older version of Rondo, a guy that is not going to want shots. He's just going to kind of move the ball around. And, if they, I mean, obviously Paul George and Kawhi are going to bring it up, but you're going to need to, in the postseason, kind of get someone to get them the ball in the right situations. It's going to be tough for them to just win on ISO basketball. I mean, they're so good that they probably could still do it, but at the same time, you'd ideally like someone who can kind of, facilitate that whole offense, keep the spacing, and, work in there. But, I mean, like you guys have been mentioning, the star power is ridiculous. The defense is ridiculous. And I think Doc Rivers is one of the best coaches in the NBA. So, I mean, it would be hard-pressed for me to see this team not, in it, at least in the Western Conference Finals. So, I mean, you got to love what they did in the offseason. They gave up a lot, but they're all in right now, and they should be with this roster.
That's an interesting take you had, Justin, because, like you said, you need that in the postseason, especially down the stretch in, like, the Western Conference Finals and the finals, kind of need that point guard to run the offense. And not saying, like you said, not saying Paul George and Kawhi can't do that. But, Kawhi benefited so much last year off the good play of Kyle Lowry and kind of, space the floor and Kyle Lowry to get in the ball in the right spots, stuff like that. And, Patrick Beverley, as great as he is, great defender, he's not really known for his facilitating. And Lou Williams could probably be that guy, but then, you're taking a knock on defense.
It's not really his strength.
Exactly. And he's not much of a defender either. So it's kind of a shaky spot right there, but if that's going to be their only downside, this team's going to be very good. But it's just going to be interesting to think about as the year goes on. Obviously, in November and December and January, that's not really going to matter. We're talking about more when you get into March, April, and, deep into that postseason when you're playing really good other teams and you can't just walk down the court and get a bucket like this team normally will when you really got to work for them. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic of this team for sure.
I mean, honestly, I mean, you said point guard. It honestly doesn't even need to be a point guard. I mean, we saw it with Draymond. He was kind of that key facilitator early on in that Warriors run, and it could honestly be anyone. So I mean, you never know who they could bring in. I mean, I doubt they'd bring in anyone right now, but just someone to emerge that can kind of find the right people in the right spots and make those good plays. And I kind of disagree a little bit. I mean, honestly, Kawhi is not that guy. He's shown that in this season. Or in his career. He's not that guy that's going to be getting other people involved. I mean, Kawhi's kind of like, here, Kawhi, get this bucket, and he's elite at that, obviously. But even Paul George, I mean, it's just not their strengths. So maybe Patrick Beverley kind of goes into that role a little bit, but they got to get someone that can kind of take a step back and be unselfish and kind of work with everyone and maximize everyone's potential, because we've seen it before. I mean, just adding another star to another star-studded lineup is not necessarily going to make everything better. I mean, it's got to fit in the right pieces. It's kind of like a puzzle. And right now you got Kawhi and Paul George, but you got to get someone that can kind of distribute the ball and not just kind of stand around.
Yeah, one thing to counter that I could see them doing is, with that stellar defense, they're just trying to they're going to get in transition. They're going to eliminate half-court sets as much as they can. They're going to rely on steals and just getting the ball moving. Jerry West is there, had ties to help build that Warriors organization up. And I could just really see them trying to play elite defense and get the ball up and down the court with those wing players as well as Patrick Beverley, Lou Williams. I just see them trying to maybe make it a track meet here and there to try to eliminate that issue from that half court set, more or less. Because let's be real here, they're going to average, I don't know, a crap ton of steals every game. So they're going to get it moving, and I'm just going to see them, they're going to make it a track meet out there in transition, I think.
Yeah, and if they do make, if that's the way they play, there's going to be very few teams in the NBA that are going to be able to compete and keep up with them on the break like that. But, moving on to my team, Los Angeles Lakers. I am outnumbered on this podcast 2-1, so down the line of the season, there probably will be multiple heated conversations. But, the Lakers, as we all know, big splash getting Anthony Davis in the offseason, probably the biggest free agency signing other than what the Clippers did. And, the Lakers have a total revamped roster as well as their disappointing last season they had. They signed a bunch of veterans, brought a bunch of new guys in. They did lose a lot of young players like Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram and that fourth pick. But they were able to retain Kyle Kuzma, and they brought in a lot of 3-and-D guys what this team really needed. That's what LeBron really thrives with, guys like Danny Green and KCP and guys like that. So what do you guys think about the Lakers this year?
Obviously, anytime you add Anthony Davis and you have LeBron James, you're going to be a heavy favorite. Kuzma is a great young piece out there. Rajon Rondo has championship pedigree, and I know you mentioned 3-and-D. But the one thing I worry about is really just outside shooting. Yeah, they might be able to hit threes, from people driving and whatnot. But if people can eliminate that transition game and make them really cycle around and hit jumpers, it'll be interesting to see how effective they can be. But Anthony Davis, LeBron James, they're going to put up numbers as long as they stay healthy. And then another kind of interesting thing to kind of monitor is, the minutes. How many minutes are these guys going to really be able to play? LeBron James last year, first time pretty much in his career, kind of was banged up. They ended up, resting him a lot of games. Anthony Davis, they're going to want to keep healthy. He's going to play a lot. But then JaVale McGee can't give you a whole bunch of minutes. They got Dwight Howard. That's pretty much one person. They're going to combine into one. Kuzma's already banged up. Danny Green and Jared Dudley, also players that were, lightly kind of used in rotations last year. So wear and tear, I'm a little concerned, and maybe more outside shooting. But, they have 2 top 5 players in the league. Easy. You can't argue that. So they're going to be making moves out there, that's for sure.
Yeah, just like the Clippers, I probably have 2 main concerns with the Lakers. The first thing would be depth. To me, I'm not super high on their bench. I think Danny Green is a great piece to have coming off the bench. Even Quinn Cook can come in and spell some guys. Not a big Dwight Howard guy. Jared Dudley is kind of whatever. So the depth is going to be interesting, especially when you get into the postseason. LeBron's a freak. I think, anyone can agree. He's probably still going to be, going strong into the postseason. AD, say what you want about AD being a top 5 guy. He hasn't really shown anything in the postseason. Given his team was pretty terrible, but I'm not saying him personally, like his own performance. I'm just saying he hasn't really been on that stage in the Western Conference Finals. Not to say he can't. He clearly has the talent to do that.
He met the Warriors a couple times early.
I'm not putting that on him. I'm just saying he hasn't been there in the latter part. Lack of experience there. And then like Mason mentioned, I just think the shooting is going to be big. The facilitating is going to be. You got LeBron is such a good passer. He can play point guard. He can play any position. Him and Rondo they're going to be fine facilitating the ball, having that spacing. But the inverse of the Clippers problem. The Clippers can shoot, but they don't really have facilitators. I think the Lakers have those facilitators, but they're not going to have guys that can kind of knock down those shots. Kyle Kuzma is going to have to get a lot more efficient shooting the ball. Just looking at this projected starting 5, you got Rondo, not a huge shooter. You got JaVale McGee, obviously can't shoot. LeBron can shoot. AD, ideally, you don't want him shooting a ton of threes. But Kuzma is going to have to take that step up. I think Danny Green's a solid 3-point option off the bench, Quinn Cook. So they're going to have to find those kind of, like I said, building that puzzle. They're going to have to find a way to get shooters on the floor with LeBron. because that's been the biggest thing since was in Cleveland in his first run. He's so good at finding those right guys, but if it's not the right guys to hit those shots, it's kind of all for naught. So I mean, like I said, if they stay healthy, they should be, at least in the conference finals. They have so much, they're so front loaded in the NBA. It's your stars that matter. It's not necessarily your depth, but that depth could get exposed if they don't start, kind of producing. So it's going to be an interesting season to see. I mean, I think them and the Clippers, it's going to be such an interesting matchup because they're pretty different, honestly. For having that top-end talent, they're pretty different teams. So we'll see which team is structured more effectively for sure.
Yeah, and another thing we haven't really said, Frank Vogel, obviously being with the Pacers and the Magic, he's never had a team even close to this amount of talent level, So, I think he's a good coach, but he hasn't necessarily put it out there to be, he doesn't have championship pedigree or anything like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. Obviously, they hired Jason Kidd on the staff. I think LeBron had a lot to do with that. So I think they have a solid coaching staff, but they don't necessarily have, a star-studded one. Not saying they need one, but so that's going to be an interesting thing as the year goes on to see what they do with these different lines. There's tons of different lineups they can plug in and stuff. How much time will Anthony Davis play at center this year? How much time will LeBron probably be handling the ball? Probably most of it, but so it's gonna a lot of things they can do with this team. And the thing I do like about this team a lot, and the Lakers have been bad on defense the last couple of years. I think they're going to be very, I don't know necessarily one of the best defensive teams, but very much improved on defense. And the thing I really like about this team, kind of a new word in the NBA nowadays is switchability. And this team has a lot of it. They have a lot of all their big men are very athletic and, can switch onto smaller guards for, not the whole game, but, possessions here and there, and they'll be okay. Obviously they have Anthony Davis, and if LeBron, tries on defense this year, they're going to be very good.
Honestly, I mean, with that switchability point, though, I mean, the whole thing with switchability is you got to have everyone kind of able to guard every position.
Yeah, Dwight and JaVale, I don't know.
It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough with Dwight and JaVale, and even Kuzma. I mean, he hasn't really shown a whole lot on defense. And then you got Rondo, who's obviously he's still a really good defender, but is he going to be able to switch onto a wing and guard that? I think with LeBron and AD, obviously, if LeBron tries, those two can guard 1 through 5 every position. But I don't think necessarily top to bottom you have that. I mean, even coming off the bench, I'd say Danny Green's a solid defender, but Dwight, Jared Dudley, Quinn Cook, I mean, those aren't versatile defenders, in my opinion. I think you got those top 2 guys, but that would be a little bit of concern for me, switching 1 through 5.
No, you're right. I don't necessarily think they could switch 1 through 5. I'm just saying that their front court and their back court, they have guys that can do that, which they haven't had at all in the last couple of years. And, and with Dwight and JaVale, it's going to be more, rim protection. They haven't had that either at all. So that's going to be a huge improvement. And obviously Anthony Davis, probably the best rim protector in the league. So that is going to be a huge improvement from what they came from. But obviously, they're not focused on improving. They're focused on winning a championship. So it's kind of all in for the Lakers for sure. And, in another thing, kind of contrary to the Clippers, and I'm not saying the Clippers are going to be bad in any way, saying I think the Lakers adjustment with AD and LeBron is going to be smoother than Kawhi and Paul George. And all 4 of them are very talented players, all, former first-team NBA players. Just saying, Kawhi and Paul George, they play in the same position pretty much. So it might take them a longer time to get adjusted. The Lakers might, start off a little faster because LeBron and AD kind of complement each other so well. And, AD's probably the best player LeBron's ever played with besides, maybe Wade or Kyrie. If you want to make an argument about that, that's fine. But so I think, LeBron and AD might have a faster adjustment, but, at the same time, I guess that doesn't really matter. It really only matters once you get into the playoffs and how well you can play there. So, it's going to be interesting, especially when the Lakers and Clippers go up against each other, and it's going to be fireworks in LA.
Yeah, one thing to kind of counter you guys, LeBron James is obviously a great player, but I do kind of want to challenge the very good defending aspect to him and the lack of trying that you guys kind of crown to him. I just have a hard time believing he doesn't try the last couple of years. He is someone that is struggling agility-wise, getting side to side a little bit, getting taken off the dribble now and then. We're looking at some quick defensive advanced analytic ratings. Over the last 2 years, he has not been a top 50 ranked player in defensive, basically, effectiveness. This is off of NBA.com. Now, having said that, let's be real. We all know he's not a subpar defender, but I just really want to see him, can he do it night in and night out on an island one-on-one? I just don't know if he can do it anymore. He's still a B's top 5 player, but he is not that defensive eraser he once was 4 years ago, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think he is that defensive eraser, but in no way do I think he's a liability when he's locked in. I think one thing he said, forget when it was, I think it might have been his last year with the Cavs, but I mean, he even admitted, like, I'm taking a step back on defense to focus my efforts on offense, which I think is complete BS. Like, no NBA player should do that. I don't care if you're LeBron. I don't care if you're Michael Jordan. I don't care who you are. Like, say one thing about Steph, and LeBron's a better player than Steph. That's a fact. But Steph is not as talented, not as gifted defensively, but he's going all out on defense. He's trying as hard as he can. And that's one thing that I personally, at my core, I played basketball my whole life. I think that's ridiculous. I don't think you should be doing that. But I think if he turns it on, which, like I said, should be at all times, he can play solid defense. I don't think he's going to be anything like what he was in the Heat. I mean, he was unbelievable in the Heat defensively. Like, he could guard any position, any player ever at that period of time. He's not that. But I still don't think he's going to be a liability, and he's still, he could still be a very good defender. But I agree with you. I still think he's taking a step back. I think it's like a middle in between the 2 points. He should be trying more, but at the same time, he's not that top end elite defender anymore.
No, I agree with that. I don't think he's a top end elite defender anymore. He's definitely probably not in the same class as Kawhi and Paul George in that sense. But, in the regular season, he's not going to be asked to do that every night in and night out. You know what I mean? He's not going to have to guard the best player like that and be on an island. It was like that. And the way the Lakers are kind of set up, he's not really going to get switched on to like Steph would on the Warriors or something like that. But
he's still got to give more effort, man.
That's fitting into my next.
Like last year, there were times where it was.
That's fitting into my next point. There was times where he looked, asleep on defense last year. I think this year, he's much more driven, and we're going to see a lot more fire out of him this year, especially defensively on the Lakers. Because I felt last year they kind of coasted a little bit, and he kind of fell asleep on defense at times. And, as the season was going on and they realized, it's getting worse and worse, they're probably not going to make the playoffs, he kind of looked a little disinterested sometimes. But I don't think that's going to be the case at all this year. I don't think he's necessarily going to put up, Defensive Player of the Year statistics or anything like that. But I just think we're going to see a lot more fire and energy out of him on the defensive end. And, and obviously with the addition of Anthony Davis is going to make that a lot easier for him. Because, at times where, he might get exposed if he was on, the Lakers last year, the Cavs in former years, with the defenses aren't as good. He's going to have Anthony Davis there right there to help defense every time. As we know, Anthony Davis is one of the best defenders in the league. So I think Anthony Davis is going to help him a lot become, good defender.
Let me ask you one thing. Like, do you think the Lakers defense is really that bad last year? Like Lonzo and whoever else on defense, do you think it was that bad last year? I think as a team, I mean, before he got hurt, I thought they were playing really good defense, honestly.
I think they were. I think they were at times. And, Lonzo, who I think he's a very good defender and has the potential to be an elite defender, along with Brandon Ingram. But at time, and you're right, at team defense, statistically wise, they were playing very good and they didn't play bad. But there was times where they did play really bad, and then there was times where it shined a light on LeBron, obviously, because he's the the leader of the team, and he shouldn't be the one slacking on defense. But there was times that he was, so that's kind of the point I'm leaning on.
What do you think is the biggest difference? Like, I'm just genuinely curious. Yeah, what do you think is the biggest difference between this year and last year with LeBron? Like, why do you think he'll have a little bit more of that fire that you were talking about?
Obviously the roster, the addition of Anthony Davis, they're a much more realistic championship contender. I know they were last year, but honestly, if you looked at the roster, there's no way they could even competed for a championship. Obviously with LeBron, you always got a chance, but you know what I mean? Realistically last year, if you looked at it, realistically this year, the roster's built to win a championship or at least compete for it. So I think, that he has a lot more additional help and a lot better role players to go along with him. So I think he's, and last year I think, it was a bit of a reality check for him, to be honest. I think he kind of saw that, he got hurt, first, real injury for him, honestly, in his career, where he sat out an extended period of time, and where his team, where he couldn't just kind of, on the Cavs, he kind of sat back and then turned it on in the playoffs. And it showed in the West last year that he's not going to be able to do that. So, I think he kind of got a little bit of a reality check, and this year he's ready to come, and, all the haters of LeBron and the Lakers saying, oh, he's, I don't want to say washed, but, he's not what he used to be, blah, blah, blah. Maybe he's not.
Oh, he's a stud. Yeah, he's a horse. He's a horse.
But you know what I'm saying? Those LeBron haters out there, which there are tons of. But, I think he's ready to come back and prove everyone wrong and prove he's still the king. And, another thing, I don't know if he's even thinking about it at all, but, he's got, there's legacy things he could, break and get closer to. He could, if the Lakers were able to reach the finals this year, LeBron would be the first player to ever lead 3 different teams to the finals. I don't know if he like I said, I don't know if he thinks about stuff like this, guys, but does he want to, go down as the greatest player ever? You have to think so. And that's another, box to check that Jordan doesn't have, 3 different teams to the finals and stuff like that. I think he's 5,000 points away from Kareem. So, if he wants to be the all-time scorer, which he honestly has a realistic shot at doing, he can, if he puts up great numbers this year, he's only getting closer to that. So, there's a lot of different things I think why LeBron is going to be more motivated this year. And, and at the same time, people are saying they're not even the best team in their city, and they might not be. So, you know what I mean? So he's not even necessarily considered the king of LA. You know what I mean? I think he's probably thinking about that too. And that rivalry with the Clippers that's about to be renewed this year. So it's going to be very, I think all those reasons are reasons why LeBron is going to be, more play with more fire this year.
Yeah, get your popcorn ready. Basically, when the LA teams come on, it's going to be fireworks, star power everywhere. Really great basketball. Great, happy to see. Honestly, Lakers, Clippers, that city of LA, big basketball town, big basketball city. So nice to see them both on the up and up. But let's get moving on. Let's round out this Pacific Division. Next up, Sacramento Kings. Last year 9th in the West, 39-43. Bringing in Walton, a head coach, someone I really like. I know it didn't work out in Lakerland, but great ties to the Warriors organization and a player with championship pedigree as well as a coach. And they got some really, really young talent. Second-year player Bagley, gonna make a name for himself. Legit 2010 guy. First, didn't get along with the coaching staff last year so much in the beginning. But, ended up working out. And then De'Aaron Fox, I don't know if there's a quicker man in the NBA, Josh. That man can get up and down the court.
That boy's fast.
He can fly.
So, they got a real good mix going on, young, old. My brother, my oldest brother, is a huge Sacramento Kings fan. Give him some credit, loyal through all the up and downs. And he's super excited, to be honest. I'm super excited. They're a really good, fun, young team to watch this year upcoming.
Yeah, shout out the Cowbells out there in Sac, man. I got some family over there, season ticket holders. That new stadium's nice, and you know what? I'm gonna say it. The West is stacked, but I think the Kings get in. Even if it's an 8 seed, even if they sneak in, I think that they're gonna be in the playoffs. Here's the thing. I am a huge believer in Bagley. He's been a premier guy, kind of recruit since high school, even since middle school. I remember seeing videos of him in middle school just dunking on kids. So he's a stud.
Lunch money.
Yeah, once he got out of the doghouse of the coaching staff after the All-Star break, he was a 2010 guy. He was looking very good. We mentioned De'Aaron Fox. He's kind of incrementally improved. I think last year he was at 17-7-4. So if he kind of makes that jump to 19-9-5 kind of thing. Woo. And then with Buddy Hield, Buddy Hield's a 40% three-point shooter. He's legitimately a top 5 shooter in the NBA. Why could that big three not be one of the best big threes in the NBA? Not high end, obviously, talking Lakers, Clippers, but why couldn't it be a top 6'5" kind of big three in the NBA. And then you're talking about the guy. I love the veteran acquisitions they made this year. Trevor Ariza, Corey Joseph, and then you kind of re-signing Harrison Barnes as a role guy. And then we talked about Fox and Bagley, but Bogdan Bogdanovic, Bielitsa,
that's our
Harry
guy.
Giles.
That guy.
Yeah, definitely. I'm high on this roster, and I think Luke Walton. He had a very tough situation last year with the Lakers. It was kind of shaky roster. You bring in LeBron. It was a pretty tough coaching job, and he kind of got the short end of the stick. So I think right now he's going to get that good, kind of that chance, And I think I'm a big believer in Luke Walton. I think he can really scheme it up. So I'm pretty high on this roster. I think they got I think last year's a little more the younger guys getting the chance to figure it out. Now you bring in that veteran presence to kind of win games down the stretch. The Kings are in a tough division. I mean, we talked about the Warriors, Lakers, and Clippers. You're in a conference of three of the best teams in the NBA, but I think they steal a couple from all of them. I think they're a really good roster, and I'm pretty high on them this year.
Oh, they played the Warriors tough last year, man. I remember sitting there with my brother. It was going back and forth a little bit. Warriors won the majority, if I'm not mistaken, but just a real watchable team, which is something nice because they haven't been really watchable over the last 5-6 years, really. They've just really done a nice job of turning that organization around. They're hitting their draft picks. Vladdy, as the GM, was taking the hits early on, but he's really starting to turn things around there. And, people are starting to want to play in Sacramento now, which is, a fresh change to see. And it's just nice to see them on the up and up, make the Pacific Division even harder.
Yeah, they are. They are kind of a must-watch team. They're very fun to watch. Buddy Hield's a great shooter, like you said. Justin, De'Aaron Fox is kind of taking. Can he take that next step? And Marvin Bagley, certified stud, almost pretty much already. He's potential to be a very good player offensively and defensively. And Mason, I think we have this argument with our buddy James a while back. Before the Clippers got all their studs they have now. But me and Mason were on the same page. We were saying that we think the Kings were in the same boat as the Clippers at the time, that they could take that next step. Obviously, not now. It's a totally different situation now with the Clippers, their additions. But, the Kings were kind of right there, They were in the playoff battle pretty much until the last week of the season last year. They were in it the whole time.
With turmoil.
Yeah, exactly. And Marvin Bagley didn't even really play the first half of the season. So, and he was pretty much their best player at the end of the year. So, and now they bring in Luke Walton, who I think, like you referred to, Justin got the short end of the stick in LA. Kind of what wasn't his fault, just kind of the direction, the franchise was going. So, but he's still a very good coach, I think, with tons of potential. And I think now he's this kind of, young team in Sacramento that he can really
coach, really relatable. It's going to fit really nicely.
Exactly. That's a perfect.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I didn't like, I thought they paid Harrison Barnes a little too much money. Maybe it's not nowadays, given the NBA's their salary cap, but I thought they gave him a little too much money for what he puts on the floor. But he's a good player for this team. He's a glue guy for them for sure, and I think honestly an underrated defender too. But I think the Kings, I don't know, Justin. I'm not going to go as far to agree with you that they can make the playoffs, given how stacked the West is this year, and given how I think I think teams like the Pelicans and stuff like that are going to get in over them. But the Kings are going to be right there, just like they are every year. They're always knocking on the door, and they're always kind of having us with the same conversation. The only way I see them getting in is if De'Aaron Fox or Marvin Bagley turn into a certified superstar this year, which, they both have the potential to do. I forgot who said it. One NBA GM said it. They said they're kind of set up like the Thunder was back in 2010, kind of how they were referred to Bagley as Durant and Fox as Russell Westbrook. Not saying that those guys are them, but, they have that type of potential, which is, if you're a Kings fan, is a great thing to hear.
Some of the physical skills they do possess. So as I mentioned, De'Aaron Fox might be the fastest in the NBA. Russ is one of the fastest in the NBA. Russ not known for shooting really. Either is Fox, but Fox is improving. I would honestly say is a better shooter already. Yeah. Yes, exactly. But he's not really, a knockdown shooter as of, coming out up and up. So I can see that comparison. And yeah, so just keep your eyes out for those Sacramento Kings. And then, I guess if we have to round it out, the Phoenix Suns, the maybe the biggest dumpster fire in the NBA, maybe in all of sports, can't have anything work out. Um, who was that rookie they had out of Kansas? Second year guy,
Josh
third year,
Jackson.
Josh Jackson, one of my good friends. Writer for Roto World, NBC Sports, Jared Johnson was super high on him, and all I could say is, "I told you so." It wasn't going to work out. Way overdrafted. Um, I did he go to he got traded last year, correct? At the end of the year,
I think in the
Did
offseason, he
in the
did.
offseason? Okay.
I forgot who it was to, but he did get traded.
Yeah, so they've kind of hit on Devin Booker. That's really the only young guy that really hit on. Obviously, last year DeAndre Ayton is a very talented player, and you would like to say he's fit in pretty nicely. But other than that, they've really struggled to identify talent. Who was the other guy had? Dragon Bender? What is that? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So they've just really struggled. They've gotten lucky, and like I said, with Booker, they really hit on that. I find that to be a really lucky hit where they got him really exploded onto the scene. So they're just really a team that needs an identity. And yes, they will be finishing last in the Pacific. Lock it up.
Yeah, no doubt they're going to finish last in the Pacific. Like you said, I'm really high on Devin Booker. I think he can be he already is a superstar. But, there's no way he's going to be able to do it by himself. Like you said, they're not really hitting on draft picks. Dragon Bender and, guys like that they haven't really hit on who they get from Villanova a lot. Michael, what's his name? Bridges. He played solid for them last year, but at the pick they got him at, you would like to see a little bit more. A lot of people were saying, Ayton was the wrong pick, because of the success that Trae Young and Luka Doncic had. But, I'm not going to go as far to say that yet. Ayton's, 7'1".
He's definitely an above average NBA player, which they don't have besides Booker.
I think, and you're right, he didn't explode onto the scene like that, but I still think he has loads of potential. But, it's not really going to help the Suns win any games right now, though. Like he's not going to – I don't think he's ready to take over a game or anything like that. And, they got some veteran acquisitions like Ricky Rubio and Dario Saric through trades and signings this offseason, but, to be honest, how much those guys really going to do for you right now. So it's going to be interesting for the Suns. They haven't embraced that full tank like the Sixers did, but, and I don't want to it might be time for them to do that, to just rebound. They got a lot of things going on. They're trying to get a new arena and stuff like that, but this team seems like they don't really have a direction, and I think they need to establish one to really get this team moving in the right way.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be negative, but I'm probably not going to say anything positive about them right now. On your DeAndre Ayton point, I think it's a little bit – I would compare it a little bit to drafting like a guard in the NFL number 1 overall. It's great. It's good to have that guard. It's great to have that, but his position and what he kind of does is pretty much extinct in the NBA. It's not really prevalent. I mean, great. If you can give me 16 and 12 a game, that's great, but how do you impact the game? Devin Booker, like you guys said, he's a stud. He could score, but ideally, I don't think, even if he's in the perfect situation, he's the best player on a team that's competing. I just don't think that he's that guy. I think he's a really good scorer. He's a guy that, efficient, all the metrics. That's about it. I'm not the biggest Devin Booker fan. And then, this offseason, Ricky Rubio, you mentioned him. I think he's absolutely terrible. In the playoffs last year, he was so bad. I hate Ricky Rubio now. And then their draft pick, they draft Cam Johnson. He's hurt. I mean, yeah, like Ramsey said, they don't really have a direction. Robert Sarver, worst owner in the NBA. I mean, they should really consider folding this franchise. They are really screwed. They can't hit on a pick. I mean, look at the picks that they've had: Alex Len, Josh Jackson. At least DeAndre Ayton's a guy that's going to be in the NBA, so I guess that's a plus. But I mean, they can't get out of their own way. It's pretty tough to see, honestly. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got on them. It's tough. If you're a Suns fan, I feel for you, but luckily there's only about 7 of you guys in the United States. So
yeah, I feel sorry for you, but we're moving on.
Yeah.
So let's get into some NBA awards, folks. Let's start with who you guys think for Rookie of the Year. Let's start there. Who you guys got Rookie of the
I hate
Year?
to say it, but I mean I don't. But Zion Williamson, I feel like already kind of has it wrapped up. I think some other guys. I think this was a great draft class. I think there's going to be a lot of, all-star players in this class. But if I don't know if you guys watched any preseason of Zion yet, but it's kind of looking scary. I think he's got it. And obviously these are premature picks, but I think he's got it in the bag already.
Yeah, I'm a huge Zion fan. I know people got their criticisms of him, but the way he feels the game, it's just so natural to him. Like he can pass. The one thing he's got to get is that shooting ability, but the way he feels the game, I know everyone's like, oh, all he can do is that's not all he can do. If you really watch him, he can handle the ball a little bit, and just the way he kind of he has that touch around the rim. He can find open guy. I'm a huge Zion guy. I don't know about Mace, but I think we're gonna talk about Zion. But one guy, let's give one guy. Yeah, let's give one guy that we think kind of can compete with him. And for me, it'd be Ja Morant. I'm not as big on RJ Barrett.
Pick stealer.
So, yeah, no. My pick's gonna be Zion. I think Zion's gonna win it. But let's just. I mean, if we just.
I'm going Ja outright. Okay. I totally respect Zion, freak of nature.
Absolutely.
The biggest physical specimen we've seen since LeBron James, Dwight Howard, that type of ability. But the best basketball player in the draft, in my opinion, is Ja Morant. Watching him navigate through the NCAA tournament, the closest comparison I have would be a Dwayne Wade. That's how much impact he really had on the court. Talent around him, severely outnumbered, and just shined as bright as can be. And, I think he can shoot, pass, play defense, get some rebounds. You're right. It is going to be Zion, I'm sure. But I'm telling you, if somehow this Memphis Grizzly team can just be average, which is a reach.
Could be. I think they could be average.
Which is a little bit of a reach. But they do have two outstanding players, in my opinion, in Morant and then Jackson Jr., I believe is his name, from Michigan State. Yeah, Jarrett Jackson. I love him too before he got hurt. Really effective. So I think those two guys in a pick and roll, and they got some shooting out there a little bit with Grayson Allen. Maybe get it in transition with Jackson, who we were roasting, Josh Jackson, who was with Phoenix, but he can run up and down the court. So I think the best basketball player, he might not win the award. He probably isn't, but I honestly just believe in my heart the best basketball player I've seen in the NCAA tournament since Dwayne Wade is Ja Morant, and he's going to be an absolute superstar.
Mason, you're right about that. I'm not and Zion was my pick, obviously, and I'm not taking anything away from him, but the most refined coming out of college was probably Ja Morant. He could do everything. He was looking like an NBA All-Star in college, and you can't say that about many NBA players. Now, on the other hand, Zion obviously is freak of nature, like you guys said, one of those, one in a million generation athletes like we've seen, and he's only going to get better. That's the scary thing with him. He already has the athleticism and the strength, but he's only going to get better. But right now, if we're talking this second, like Zion, he is a great passer and he can affect the games in many other ways, like you said, Josh, that people don't really understand, that people don't, that don't really watch basketball don't see. But, right now, Ja Morant might have the most tools in his bag, is what I'm saying, to be the most effective on the NBA scene right now. Not saying Zion's not going to get there. He probably will faster than we all think, which is the scary thing.
Yes, yeah.
Which is the absolute scary thing. But this draft class, just in retrospect, guys, was absolutely just crazy amazing. We're talking about these guys that could be all-stars this year, and they're rookies, you know what I mean? And that might be a bit of a stretch given how loaded the Western Conference is, but these guys are going to be they're franchise players already, and they haven't even played a minute of NBA regular season basketball.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point. The NBA exponentially, the talent level is just booming, growing. Everyone, is growing up playing basketball now. You're seeing these kids in middle school, as just mentioned, in high school, just tearing it up. And, guys, an interesting perspective, I kind of have. I'm a little bit older than you guys, but I remember, as a kid, just, Dwayne Wade is the reason why I really started watching basketball, watching him in the NCAA tournament, really got me involved in the NBA. And, I remember watching drafts, and if you didn't have a top 2 pick, you basically you felt like you weren't going to get anyone. That is not the case anymore, man. You go halfway through that first round, even into the second round, there's talent there that you find. It's just the talent level is just booming exponentially. It's just really awesome to see just how crazy good people are getting at basketball.
Seriously.
Yeah, definitely. You want to move on to the next award?
Yeah, let's move on. Coach of the year, boys. Actually, no. Before we do Coach of the year, let's do sixth man. Let's do sixth man. The end of the bench contributor. Who you guys got? I know there's someone up that has won it multiple times recently, Lou Williams. But who you guys got as sixth man?
All right, how about this? We have to say someone besides Lou Williams.
I like it.
He's literally the GOAT off the bench. So let's who do you think could win it besides Lou Williams?
I think you got to look at the LA teams potentially. Even a Shamet or Montrezl Harrell, if Montrez comes off the bench, he's going to put up numbers. And Shamet is a sharp shooter. He's probably going to be getting some open shots. I like those two. And then I don't know what it takes to qualify exactly, but if Klay Thompson comes back, All-Star break, and let's say D'Lo moves to off the bench, I don't know exactly what the percentage needs to be. But, he's going to be putting up numbers, so maybe him as well. Other than that, it's hard for me to put my thumb on it. Danny Green, big shot Danny Green as well has got a chance.
If he can win sixth man, the Lakers are going to be looking good.
Yeah. And, it usually goes to teams that are in playoff positions. Maybe even a team, we talked about the Kings a little bit. Maybe a Bogdanovich, maybe.
The bench or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But other than that, I'm gonna have to go. I like picking young players, so I'm either gonna go Shamet or Harrell if he ends up coming off the bench.
Those are two very good picks. I got two guys I really like. I like D Rose and I like Spencer Dinwiddie. I think if I
Dinwiddie, yeah,
a two, I'd probably go D Rose. Just because, I'm a huge D Rose fan, and I think he had I obviously, as we all know, he's got a great story, and the guy had a big year last year. I think, and now with the Pistons, I think he can really do some things off the bench for them. And Dinwiddie, going to be backing up Kyrie is, that's
the Australian.
Yeah, he averaged 16 points off the bench last year, so it's gonna be an exciting thing to see. And D Rose averaged 18, so I think those are two guys that could take it from Lou Will. So we'll see.
Yeah, I have no idea, man. I think, you guys brought up some good players there. I mean, it's so unpredictable. I mean, besides you got like a guy like Lou Will is just a certified bucket getter off the bench.
Crawford in his prime. Yeah, it is really hard. Prime, it is hard.
It's tough because, guys come on the scene all the time, but this is going to be completely all out of left field. This is a guy that, hey, he beat his brother in 3-point percentage last year, so I'm going to go Seth Curry, man.
Woo!
I think he comes off the bench, gives that team a spark off the bench. They got Luka, Kristaps. I think they're going to be competing for the playoffs. I don't necessarily.
I'll be talking Mavericks in a few.
Yeah, you can't necessarily put them in right now, but I think they'll be in contention for sure. And I think Seth Curry has a breakout year this year, so he's going to be my guy coming off the bench for the Mavericks.
All right. Moving on, Coach of the Year. Flat out, I got to go with my favorites to win it all. As much as it kills me, I'm going with Doc Rivers here. I just, I think they're in position to really, Kawhi Leonard basically won the championship with one leg last year. Yes, the Warriors were beat up, but, he's a stud from my alma mater, San Diego State. Go Aztecs. So, yeah, I'm taking Doc Rivers because I think they're going to win it all.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Brett Brown from the Sixers. I think the Sixers are gonna steamroll the Eastern Conference as they should. It's probably between them and Milwaukee, or either them and Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. But I think the Sixers will end up with that 1 seed, and they might have the best overall record in the NBA. Time will tell, but I'm going to go with Brett Brown.
Yeah, I mean, since this is a regular season award, one team I'm super high on, having a pretty high seed, is the Jazz. So I'm gonna go with my guy Quinn Snyder. I'm a big Quinn Snyder guy. Preaches defense. They got a good roster. They made big moves. Got Mike Conley. They got Bogdanovich from the Pacers, the other one. I'm big on the Jazz, so I'm gonna go with Quinn Snyder on this one.
All right, moving on. Most improved player, boys. Who you got?
Man,
I'm going to go. I got it. I already mentioned him a little bit, but I'm going to go with Jackson from Memphis again, the second-year player, Jaren Jackson.
Okay. I like that.
I thought he was a superstar coming out. I can't believe, I know there's a lot of talent, but even at 4 to get a guy like that, been playing basketball. His mom was involved with it growing up as well. With John Morant helping him out in the pick and roll as well as finding him some open mid-range. I just look for him to explode, and he's also got that long wingspan to affect the floor on defensively.
I'm going to go. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Josh. Go ahead, dude.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with Lonzo. The Pelicans, man. I'm a big-time Lonzo guy. I know he gets his hate. He looks a little bit better on that jumper, and I just think, man, he's got some weapons with Brandon Ingram and Zion, and I think he's really going to make the team a lot better. And we mentioned his defense earlier. I'm a big Lonzo guy. I know a lot of people aren't, but I'm going to go with Lonzo. So,
before we move on, Josh, I know I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I'm a little excited to kind of mention that. Before we hear Ramsey's pick, mention of Lonzo, and I mentioned my buddy from NBC Sports and Roto World, Jared Johnson. We got a bet going on here, folks. I bet him when Lonzo was drafted that he would be an all-star. And this is the last year I get it, that he becomes an all-star. So I'm hoping, I don't know him $100. So come on, Lonzo.
If the Pelicans are humming, if they're humming and Lonzo has a bunch of triple doubles and
that's what I'm saying.
His shooting percentage is better, it's not crazy. It's not crazy.
Coming out, I probably would have made that same bet as you. I'm also a huge Lonzo guy, obviously getting drafted to the Lakers. But I think, he could take those leaps, and we'll see. If Lonzo can win most improved players, the Pelicans could get as high as a 6 seed in the playoffs. So we'll see. We'll see what they're doing. But my pick for most improved player, Domantas Sabonis over in Indiana, dude.
Yeah, he had a good year last year.
I was 14-9 last year. Oladipo is going to miss some time early, but he'll be back down the stretch. But I think he's going to take off this year. I really like him out of Gonzaga. He's starting to expand his game, starting to stretch the floor a little bit, shooting threes. And, as the league is getting smaller, he's that stretch 4, but, he's still 6'11". So he's my pick for most improved player. I think he's going to turn it up this year. Maybe even an all-star.
I like that.
I like that one too. Moving on, the biggest award, most valuable player. Several players that can win. Obviously, I'm gonna go with Luka Doncic from the Dallas Mavericks. I think give him the unicorn, give him that Seth Curry in the corner. Real young guy, been playing professional basketball for a long time. So I'm going with Luka Doncic. Let's go.
I like that pick, Mace. I respect that. But I gotta go with LeBron James. I think he's had the most rest since 2003, which is absolutely ridiculous to think about. So he hasn't played basketball, like meaningful basketball, since March. I think he got that time to rest up, and I know he's shooting movies and stuff, but I think he was really training and getting ready for the season. As everyone knows, he spends $1.5 million a year on himself, his recovery efforts, most of any other professional athlete that I know of. So I think LeBron, had a good summer putting work in. He's hitting threes with ease in this preseason so far. Obviously, a much improved Lakers team, so my pick is going to be LeBron.
Okay, I don't hate that. I'm going to probably just have to go with my guy, Steph Curry. I think he's just going to get crazy volume, and we're going to really see him. I think there's going to be some games this year where he's really just putting up 60 points because it's a close game. no one else on the Warriors can get going, and he's just launching, and it's going to be really fun, man. I mean, I don't necessarily, know if he's a favorite just because, they could be resting him a little bit more, kind of trying to preserve him, especially if kind of they start out really shaky. They might not press to make that run at a 1 seed that they normally do, but I just think the volume that he's going to have is going to be ridiculous. And we've seen it per 36 minutes, he's shooting 25 shots a game in the preseason. If he does that, he's going to be averaging 35 to 40 points a game. I think he's going to have a monster season.
I will say this, though. It's not really a dark horse because he was 4th in it last year, but Nikola Jokic. Jokic could, if he puts together another season and the Nuggets are a top 3 seed, which, they probably could be at the end of the year, I could see Jokic winning the MVP along with Damian Lillard. I think, I'm a huge Damian Lillard guy. I love that guy. I think he has MVP potential as well.
Yeah, it's just really crazy. All those names we've thrown out there, it's just so much talent in the NBA, guys. It's just booming, as I mentioned earlier. But really, yes, I have to say the odds-on favorites would be like a guy like LeBron James, a Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard, all those types of guys. So I definitely respect your guys' opinions on that. Before we wrap this up, guys, let me hear your finals matchup and prediction before we move on. Get out of here. What do you guys got? Finals winner and prediction on what's the matchup?
Man.
I know it's early.
I think the Clippers figure it out. I think I mentioned a little bit of concern about their facilitating, but I think they're so good on defense. It's gonna be tough for any team to score on them, and that's just so valuable in the playoffs, man. Everyone talks about the Raptors last year, and they kind of figured it out with Fred VanVleet and all those guys, but they won because they clamped up the Warriors, and they clamped them up, made it tough for them to score. So I'm going to go with the Clippers. And then out of the East, I think Giannis breaks through. I think they get over the hump. And I'm going to take the Clippers. I think the Clippers win it all against the Bucks.
Yeah, I know I mentioned it, slipped up earlier. I got the Clippers representing the West. I think it's going to be an epic battle between them and the Los Angeles Lakers. And honestly, I think that's really going to come down to being the NBA Finals, is the Western Conference Finals once again. That's just how I see it. I'm going to go with you as well with Milwaukee, but I got the Clippers winning it 3-1. 4 games to 1, excuse me. Relatively easy. I know it sounds pretty crazy, but with that matchup, how it lines up, I just think the wing defensive ability of a Kawhi Leonard and a Paul George will be able to contain, not neutralize, but contain Giannis. And I think they get it done.
Yeah, I gotta go with Los Angeles Lakers. I think, like you said, Mace, I think that it's gonna really come down to that Western Conference Finals between the Lakers and the Clippers, most likely, which will most likely go 7 and be probably, has potential to be one of the best series of all time.
Oh yeah.
So that will be great. Hopefully, for the sake of the NBA, we get to see that. But I got the Lakers going up against I think Ben Simmons and the Sixers finally figure it out.
Woo!
Joel Embiid has a big year. Another guy that could be a dark horse for the MVP. So I think the Sixers and the Lakers, and I think it goes 6 games, Lakers 4-2.
And you know what? Before we wrap this up, what are you guys thinking of Ben Simmons? You think he's going to be able to hit some threes? And you think if he's able to, that he maybe gets in the conversation for most improved player? Or do you think he's already too good of a player? Or do you think if he adds that dimension of being able to shoot, you think he maybe sneaks into that conversation?
I mean, if he adds that dimension, like we saw, he had 3 in preseason. So, which is great and all, but, everybody can calm down a little bit. But
exactly.
The thing about Ben Simmons is he doesn't even really need to shoot a high percentage from 3. He just needs to take them. The guys that guard him, like when Kawhi was guarding him in the playoffs, he was standing in the paint, and Ben Simmons is up the top of the key, Yeah. Absolute no threat. He should start taking them. And if he can make 3 out of 10, great. 30%, fine. Even 20%, fine. You know what I mean? At least shoot them. Like, that's the thing with Draymond. Draymond's not a great three-point shooter, but at least he shoots them, So it's like you got to respect him. Ben Simmons has got to earn that respect. And, he's a great player, all types of talent, too. I don't necessarily know if he can win the MVP because I don't think he's even the best player on his team. But if he starts putting up numbers where he can get in the MVP conversation, the Sixers are going to be a real force to be reckoned with. So, Ben Simmons shooting threes is only going to make, not even making threes. Ben Simmons shooting threes is just going to make the Sixers better, space out the floor for Embiid and others, and just going to help them a lot more.
Yeah, I think it's pretty crazy that he averaged 17, 9, and 8 last year, not even having the threat of shooting threes.
Right.
So I think having that threat is going to easily make him a 20-point per game scorer. It's going to open everything up, not only for him but for everyone. And his passing ability is unique. He can rebound the ball. So I 100% agree. I mean, this might be a hot take, but man, he could damn near win MVP if he can put in 30% of his threes and really start to open everything up.
Yeah, so I guess the answer is if he becomes a little bit better of a shooter, most valuable player or most improved player is on the table. Ben Simmons is a freak, definitely. But I think that wraps it up for today's show. Our first NBA show. We'll be firing them off weekly, I'm sure, especially when the season gets going. So let's get rolling. Let's have another good year. Go Dubs, go Lakers, go Clippers for my boy James Hardwick out there, and let's have a good season.
Yes, sir. I'm so happy we're talking about basketball, man. Can't wait for it to get started.
Hell yeah.
Yep, sounds good. We'll keep talking about it, and we'll see what happens this year. It's going to be fun.
All right. Later, guys.
Peace.